Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated. Thank you for joining us. I am BC Adebayo. Coming up today, British Airways suspends flights to mainland China amid coronavirus fears. And America's first trade deal with sub-Saharan Africa underway as US and Kenya expected to announce negotiations on a free trade agreement next week. Plus, Vodafone Group strikes $2.4 billion preliminary deal with Saudi Arabia's telecom operator STC to sell stake in Egyptian unit. Well, we begin with intraday numbers coming from the stock market, starting from South Africa, where the JSE index appears to be staging a recovery after 2 straight days of losses this week. The index was up 1.49% as at intraday. But it's a different story here in Nigeria, where the all-share index is still pointing down south, with a 0.74% decline as at midday. The market is also looking good in Egypt, with the EGX 30 up 0.9% at intraday. Kenya closed down 1.19% on Tuesday. And of course, most of the markets in the Middle East were doing good at intraday, except in Abu Dhabi, where the index was down 0.25%. Dubai was up 0.46%. In Qatar, the index was 0.17% positive as at intraday, while the Saudi Tadawul was 0.07% in the green also at that time. Let's cross over now to Europe, where the markets traded cautiously higher today as investors in the region look to brush off concerns about the spread of the China coronavirus. Chelsea Delany joins us live from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange for more updates on these and more. Chelsea, airlines including British Airways and Lion Air have suspended direct flights to mainland China amid concerns over the spread of the coronavirus. Could other airlines do the same, and how are investors reacting to this?
It's certainly likely that other airlines are going to follow in British Airways' steps here. British Airways is really the first major airline to suspend direct flights to the Chinese mainland, but a lot of other airlines across the world have been limiting or canceling flights. So United Airlines in the United States is one of them that have said they will cancel some flights, but it's a big step for British Airways to cancel all direct flights. Lion Air has also followed in their footsteps and said they will also be canceling direct flights, and also Seoul Airways also came out today and said that they were doing this. Other airlines, including Lufthansa here in Germany, have not gone that far to cancel all flights to China yet, but they have canceled certain routes, and they're also offering certain refunds and rebooking fee refunds for customers who don't want to fly to China. As far as the investor reaction so far, there hasn't been much. A lot of airlines are up today as the general easing and fear lifts the market higher. So IIG, the company that owns British Airways, is up just a little under 1%. Lufthansa is one of the biggest gainers in the DAX today. So I think investors aren't panicking about this yet, and they're still sort of assessing the risks of an economic impact of the spread of the virus. But for now, investors are taking this in stride.
All right, Chelsea, let's talk about Apple's latest report showing a record revenue in its latest quarter on strong iPhone and AirPods sales. What has the company said about how the coronavirus could impact its business?
Well, Apple has really been one of the key concerns as the virus has spread as far as company impacts. Apple is hugely dependent on China, not only for sales, so selling iPhones to customers in China, but also for production. It gets about a fifth of its iPhones from China, and so they're very reliant on everything really going smoothly in China. They have said yesterday, as they reported this really blowout quarter, they did say that the spread of coronavirus could have an impact on their supply chains and their production timelines. They don't have a huge exposure to the Wuhan, the city at the center of the outbreak, but they do have some suppliers there, and they do also have a lot of other suppliers throughout China that could be impacted by more closures if the virus spreads outside of that region. So they for now are saying this could be an impact. It's hard to quantify at this point, but they did, in their forecast for the rest of the year, give a wider range of sales forecasts than they normally would. And they're saying that's because they just aren't sure yet what the impact of the virus is going to be on their production timelines. Investors not too worried about it right now. The stock was up about 3% in after-hours trading yesterday, so they're still mostly focusing on the good quarter for Apple.
All right, Chelsea, in other news now, the UK has decided to allow Huawei to help build out its 5G network, and that comes despite US pressure to exclude the Chinese firm over surveillance concerns. Now, many EU countries are also wrestling over whether to exclude Huawei from their networks. Could this move by the UK change their minds in any way?
A lot of analysts believe that the UK's decision will sort of enable European countries or other countries considering the use of Huawei. It will sort of give them more confidence in allowing Huawei to be a part of their 5G networks, so they could sort of follow in the footsteps of the UK. What the UK said yesterday was that they are going to allow Huawei. They're not going to ban it outright, but they're going to impose heavy restrictions on where and how Huawei equipment can be used in the 5G build-out. Just earlier today, the EU put out a similar set of guidelines where they are also not banning Huawei, but they're saying that countries should really do a lot of analysis and take a lot of steps to make sure that their 5G networks are secure. I think we're going to have to wait and see how European nations adopt these EU guidelines, but Germany, France, they've all been under a lot of pressure from the US to not include Huawei in their 5G networks, and they've been pushing back to some extent. And I think that the UK already deciding to not ban it could certainly give them a little more confidence in saying, you know, London is already doing it, so why not us as well?
All right, Chelsea, just as I said, we'll all wait and see. Well, thanks for those updates and enjoy the rest of your day.